was such a gentle soul, wasn't he? And we're all going to miss him. Yeah. I've known Emilio for over 40 years. So when I got the phone call, I knew he wasn't well, but it was still a shock. But when Nick asked me to do the service, it was a real privilege to be able to do that, because not only was he a dear friend to me and my family, but he was my dad's best friend. Emilio was born in Casalduni in the province of Benevento in Italy on the 25th of November 1935. He had an older brother, Guido, and when he was 15 years old, he welcomed his little sister. So that's quite a big gap, isn't it? The Mastrocola family had a farm. It had an olive grove, an orchard, extensive vegetable gardens. They had land for cattle, sheep, pigs, chickens, rabbits. And the stable for the animals was under the house. So it was a very rural setting there. When Emilio was just a little boy, when he was only 4 years old, World War II broke out in Europe. His dad went off and joined the Italian army, and he was taken as prisoner, so hard for the family. But that little farm enabled the family to survive those horrible years of war. As an 8-year-old boy, Emilio would take bread to the German soldiers, and then they in turn would give him chocolates. And I saw on the table there favourites. I'm thinking maybe we could blame the soldiers for that. He loved his chocolates. Yeah. But this was all going very well until the day he brought a loaf of cornbread to them, and the soldiers were insulted. And as Emilio was running away to their angry shouts, he found the ground being sprayed by gunfire. Maybe the soldiers thought it was funny, but that was the last time he delivered bread. Sometimes his mum would send him off to town with eggs for the local priest. Oh dear. Emilio would sell them secretly and use the money for lollies. Can you imagine when Mum ran into the priest and said, "I hope you got those eggs"? What eggs? Anyway, so growing up on a farm included, of course, hunting and fishing, and he enjoyed those hobbies right through his life. And there's a fishing rod there, you'd notice. And apparently, from what someone told me, he had a very nice shotgun which he had to hand in many decades ago when Australia asked for that. He had a beautiful gun, but he enjoyed that as a hobby. In 1956, Emilio felt the need for a new life, so on his own, very bravely, he immigrated to this country. And he lived with his great aunt and uncle, Christina and Giovanni, who lived in Preston, Melbourne. And now there's a little funny story here. I never knew this until Nick told me, but he was a private man, and he was embarrassed to think that his great aunt would have to wash his underwear. So he had work, he had money, so he used to buy new ones each week. So she didn't have to wash his underwear. Well, you can imagine, I wonder how long that went on before she started to think, surely he's not wearing the same pair all the time. Yeah, so funny story, isn't it? Right? That'll be told for a while. Things didn't go to plan, so he started to save his money. He thought, I'll go back to Italy. He worked in a tannery for a time, other factories as well, but he made friends, and things started to settle down for Emilio when his brother came over for a couple of years. And during that time, Emilio was invited to a wedding in this town, in Bairnsdale. Now, I've told this story at Francie's memorial service, but I've spoken to Emilio since, and he still had the same cheeky grin on his face when he told me, yes, he said, I remember that night. He said, this man asked her for a dance and she said, and he said, when I went up to ask her, she said yes. And he still, it was like it was just happening. In his mind, it was like it just happened. Yeah, so good. At the time Emilio was living in Melbourne, So you can imagine how many times courting Francie went up and down that road. Cars and roads weren't like they are today. And on one of those trips, and I pointed this out at the gravesite, that on one of those trips Emilio had a head-on collision which claimed the life of his cousin Valentino. Now, if that had claimed Emilio's life, none of you would be here, and we would never know who he was. So in one way, we're very fortunate that he survived. Although it was a serious accident, Francie and her family, they nursed him back to health, and in 1961, Francis and Emilio got married in Densdale. That marriage would last nearly 62 years. So what a fine example of endurance and trust. And marriage is not easy, is it? It has its ups and its downs, and yet they survived that, and that's what a wonderful example for the family. They bought a house on Forge Creek Road. They lived there for some 20 years. In 1962, Nick was born, and 4 years later, Vanessa was born. So you can't hide it now. We all know how old you are. You're not 21 anymore. Emilio has 4 grandchildren. From Nick and Merrin, we have Luke and Matthew. From Vanessa and Jerry, we have Christopher and Stephanie. And he has 4 great-grandchildren. From Chris and Jasmine, we have Frankie and Connie. From Luke and Ashley, we have Ella. And then recently, from Matthew and Carla, we have a little boy. Now, when I visited him in Booba, he said, "Stephen, they named him Emilio!" And his face just glowed. And then, when he'd meet the little boy, he'd say, "You have my name." I love that. "You have my name." Oh, beautiful. Early in their married life, as we know, Emilio and Francis opened a fruit shop. And there's a photo there and some advertisements. And they were in that fruit shop. They ran that business for about 25 years. Life was busy, having a young family, running a business. You can imagine him driving his truck to Melbourne regularly each week to get supplies. So it was a busy time, but Vanessa and Nick say he was a family man and he always found time for family. They have really good memories of going to Ramawi for picnics, and family and friends were always invited, and knowing Francie, there was always plenty of food. In 1972, Emilio took Francis, Nick and Vanessa to Italy for 6 months to reconnect with his own family, but I reckon he went over there to show off his kids. He would have been such a proud dad. Emilio and Francis built a lovely home in Wyong during the 1980s, and that's where they enjoyed most of their retirement years. That house became the meeting place for the family get-togethers, where everyone enjoyed good food, lots of laughter, and Emilio's stories. Exaggerated sometimes. Nick said that accident that claimed Valentino's life was Emilio said, "I broke every bone in my body." That's not true. No, he was a lovely man. And when you see, just there, you see that cue stick and those balls. Out the back of that house, they had the big family room and the pool table, and it got me thinking, did anyone actually ever beat him at pool? Well, I think he let you. There's one game I had him on the ropes. He had 4 balls left and I had 1. And then he went, hop, hop, hop. And then went, Emilio taught me how to lose. It was good. Boy, he was good. Yeah. Out the back, he had a beautiful vegetable garden. And you never went there in season and walk away with nothing. He always gave you fresh veggies to take home. Always. He had a beautiful brick shed, but that was not for the car. No, the car was under the carport. The shed was for his tools and his wine. And he loved his shed. He loved to fix things in his shed. He kept the shed neat as a pin. And the boys are trying to keep that example going. Try. He didn't always fix things in a traditional way though. He had a Gemini and had rust in the boot. Nick came round, everything was out of the boot. He says, "What are you doing, Dad?" He said, "I'm fixing the rust." And he poured concrete in there. "Dad, what are you doing?" "The water wouldn't have got in." Actually, that shed had a unique feature. On the back wall, it had a little door. And you open the door and you could reach in and grab the chicken's eggs. You didn't have to go around into the pen, which was really good for Steph because she's scared of chooks. They are scary, though. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there, we can talk about. Later on we can talk about all those memories. But there is another facet to Emilio that I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about. He was a religious man, he had a very strong faith. And in 1988, after a number of years that he spent studying the Bible with my dad, Emilio made a vow to Jehovah God that for the rest of his life he would live according to the standards outlined in the Scriptures, and that he'd do his best to follow the example of Jesus Christ, who set a good example for all of us in the way we treat people. And that's what Emilio really wanted to do. He devoted his life to that. Now, that wasn't an easy promise, but Emilio was a man of his word. He was a loyal man. He was a man of integrity. So after taking in that knowledge and making that promise, he did his best to follow it through. He was an avid reader of the Bible. Now, just a few weeks ago, when I visited Emilio in Bupa, he picked that Bible up off the side of the table there, and he said, "This book changed my life." And it was well worn. It was weather beaten. It was one of the most worn out Bibles I've ever seen. In fact, there's only one Bible that I've seen more worn out, and that was the one my dad used to use on the veranda. And it had a lot of sun UV ray on it. But my dad taught him that the Bible was worth reading. And Emilio was not ashamed of this. He was quite happy to talk about it. He had a strong faith and he had a wonderful hope. And he shared that in a public ministry. Now, he spent many years helping this community to have the same love of the Bible that he did. And he spent many, many hours with my dad. And they travelled everywhere. They travelled from Holland's Landing right up to Dinner Plain, Nicholson, Painesville, Bruthen, the local town. They went everywhere. And towards the end of my dad's life, my dad said, "Emilio, here's my eyes and ears and taxi." Because Dad could hardly hear, he could hardly see anymore, but that didn't stop him from going in the ministry. And Emilio was there to help him right to the very end. That's the type of man he was. The hope Emilio held in his heart helped him deal with various trials through his life, and some of the most serious trials that anyone can face is illness, which he did have, old age. The ageing process is a trial in itself. He suffered the loss of his wife, and that was a trial, and he also faced his own death, and that hope sustained him. I'd like to share, just for a few moments, a few verses from the Gospel of John that really highlights why Emilio had such a wonderful hope that motivated him to do the things that he did during the last, say, 40 odd years. Firstly, I'd like to read in John chapter 17, a verse that he knew quite well. Now, John chapter 17 is a prayer that Jesus offered to his Father, and John recorded that prayer. And in verse 3, the Apostle John wrote this: "This means everlasting life. They're coming to know you, the only true God, and the one whom you sent, Jesus Christ." So Emilio knew that taking in knowledge of our Heavenly Father and His Son would ultimately lead to everlasting life. Now, he trusted those words because Jesus said in verse 17, "Your word is truth." So Emilio believed it. He knew that God would not lie. It was impossible for God to lie. He has no reason to lie, so Emilio therefore trusted the words that he read. Now, in the Gospel of John, we have an account of a man who got sick and died. And that account is the one of Lazarus. I have to put my glasses on here. Lazarus. Now, Lazarus was very sick, and Lazarus eventually died, but Jesus was a number of days away. But it says in chapter 11, verse 11, he said to his disciples, Lazarus, our friend, has fallen asleep, but I am travelling there to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he's sleeping, he will get well. Jesus, however, had spoken about his death, but they imagined he was speaking about taking rest in sleep. Therefore Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus has died. So that's very interesting that Jesus likened death to sleep. Now, if you've ever been tired on a hot summer's day and you've had a little nod off on the couch, and then you wake up, you don't know what time it is. You don't know whether you've nodded off for 5 minutes or an hour and you've got to go to work, and you have that little panic. Have you ever had that experience? Or you go to bed at night and you sleep right through the night and you wake up, you don't know what time it is. That's why you've got to look at the clock. Because when you go to sleep, you're unconscious of what's going on around you. And that was the state of Lazarus. Jesus said he's gone to sleep. No, he's actually died. Now, the account goes on further, which we'll get to in a second. But interestingly, in the English language, which is taken from the Latin and the Greek, the word cemetery, which is where we were this morning at 10 o'clock, the word cemetery means sleeping place. And you'll often see that on a tomb, rest in peace, or sleeping peacefully, because that's what the word cemetery actually means. Just like what Jesus said, Lazarus was sleeping. Now, as we go through this account, just a few more verses, Martha, what she said to Jesus, she said, Lord, if you had have been here, my brother would not have died. She knew that if Jesus had arrived before Lazarus died, he could have cured him, because that's what Jesus was doing. He was going through the area curing people. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise. Martha said to him, I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. So what happened? Well, John records the only account in the Bible where Jesus actually cried. He was so distraught at how sad the family were that he broke down and he cried too. Because he loved Mary, and he loved Martha, and he loved Lazarus, and he knew what he was going to do, but still he felt the need to cry. That's how emotional he got. That word resurrection actually literally means to stand up. So when someone goes to bed, they lie down on their bed. When they wake up, they stand up. So the resurrection hope means that when someone is laid to rest, when the resurrection takes place, they will stand up again. Now, the idea that the dead can live again, for some people, they might think, oh, that's too good to be true, that's a fantasy. But the resurrection is actually a fundamental teaching of Christianity. And Emilio knew that. In fact, this is what Jesus said in John chapter 5. John chapter 5, 28 and 29. Jesus said this, do not be amazed at this, for the hour is coming in which all those in the memorial tombs or the grave will hear his voice and come out to a resurrection. There you go. So it's a fundamental teaching of Christianity that the dead will once again live when the resurrection takes place. Emilio believed this with all his heart. He trusted God. He knew that when God's kingdom comes, that prayer, that Lord's Prayer that we've all heard or said, let thy kingdom come. Let your will take place on this earth as it is in heaven. When that kingdom finally comes. And it hasn't come yet, but it will, because God's promised it. And Emilio knew it. And so he believed with all his heart that when this happens, death will be no more. And the resurrection is a reality that has not happened yet. That's how much trust he had. In fact, the basis for his firm belief is what John wrote in the last book of the Bible, in Revelation chapter 21. And I'd like to read these verses to you. Revelation chapter 21 refers to the tent of God being with mankind. Now, when you think of a tent, you might have gone camping or you might be at the beach. A tent protects you from the elements, wind, rain, sun. So this is God's tent with mankind. So what is God going to protect mankind from? Well, verse 4 says, He will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning or outcry or pain be any more. The former things have passed away. Now, how much trust can we put in that promise? Well, verse 5 says that God says, look, I am making all things new. That's the promise. And then he told John to write down these words, for they are faithful and true. Once Emilio knew that, he was right. That gave him his faith, that gave him his hope, and that knowledge was what he wanted to tell everybody. Because that's the type of man he was. He wanted you to know. He loved people. That's the thing. He loved his family and he loved the community. He loved everyone. So he just wanted to share with everybody what he had learned. So no matter what was going on in Emilio's personal life, he knew that better times are ahead. What a fine example he has set for all of us as a man. Whether it be a close family member or just a friend of the community, what a wonderful example. I got to thinking, 1935, that's the same year my mum was born. So this little bambino comes into the world, little boy. None of us knew him then. He was just a little boy. And they named him Emilio. Emilio Giuseppe, Mastrocola. No one knew who he was, really. What would he become? What would happen to him? What would he do with his life? But now, as we look back, as sad as it might be that he has died, as we look back over 89 years, wow, we all now know him. And some, especially the family, have very, very fond memories. That's why it's sad that he's gone. Your tears reflect your love in your heart. That's what that does. Our lives are better because we've known him. So, just in conclusion, what would Emilio want all of us to do? What do you think? You know him? Well, I wrote a few things down. I think he would want the family to look after each other, to be there, to support each other, to comfort each other, right? To take care of each other. I think he would want us to grow a veggie garden for sure. He definitely would say, keep your shed clean. And I think he would say, Steph, be careful of chooks.
Get rid of the weeds.
There's one person I think he would also say, you look after my name. That little boy who won't know him, but I'm sure he'll learn about him as he grows up. But I also think too that Emilio would want us to read this book every day. It changed his life. Friends, what we're going to have now is a photo presentation that the family have prepared. So let's enjoy that.
girl. Here's what they say.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and you'll sing Vita Bella. Hearts will play tippy-tippy-tay, tippy-tippy-tay, like a guitarandella. When the stars make you drool, just like a pasta fazool, that's amore. When you dance down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore. That's amore.
When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
That's amore.
Bells will ring,
Ding-a-ling-a-ling,
ting-a-ling-a-ling,
and you'll sing Vita Bella.
Vita Bella, hearts will play,
Tippy-tippy-tay, tippy-tippy-tay, like a guitarandella.
Lucky fella. When the stars make you drool just like pasta fazool, that's amore.
That's amore.
When you dance down the street with the cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore.
Amore,
That's amore. I can hear the words you speak when the west wind whispers. I can hear your voice ring clear in the evergreens. Am I who you thought I'd be? Am I what you pictured? Did you have me standing here in your wildest dreams? Oh, just like a memory, you never left me. You just left too soon. I'll save you a seat next to me. You're always at the table. Hope you're proud of what you see. Watching with the angels. You're written in my soul. It's your blood that I bleed. Wherever you are, wherever I'll be, I'll save you a seat. I feel you in the rain that falls, so I still get shivers. Running like a family car down on Corford Day. Did you find mom up there? Tell me, are you with her? I wonder if the ones who go miss the ones who stay. Oh, just like a memory, you never left me. You just left too soon. I'll save you a seat next to me. You're table. Hope you're proud of what you see. Watching with the angels. You're written in my soul. It's your blood that I bleed. Wherever you are, wherever I'll be, I'll save you a seat. Keep your room like nothing's changed. Tried to love, but it's not the same. Not damn near broke when I heard your name. You had to go, you couldn't stay. So I'll save you a seat next to me. You always at the table. Hope you're proud of what you see. Watching with the angels.
I wanted you for life, you and me in the wind. I never thought there'd come a time that our story would end. It's hard to understand, but I guess I'll have to try. It's not easy to say goodbye. For all the joy we shared, all that time we had to spend. If I had one wish, I'd want forever back again. To look into your eyes and hold you when you cry. It's not easy to say goodbye. I remember all those great times we had. So many memories, some good, some bad. Yes, and through it all, those memories will last forever. There's peace in where you are. Maybe all I need to know. And if I listen to my heart, I'll hear your laughter once more. And so I have to say, I'm just glad you came my way. It's not easy to say goodbye.
It's not easy. Well, on behalf of the Mastrocola family, I'd like to thank all of you, such a lovely crowd of people. Thank you for coming to share this service and to reflect on such a loving, gentle, kind and loving man. It'd only be fitting to just have a brief prayer. We'll do that now and then we'll have an announcement. Dear God in the heavens, we come before you in this prayer, We recognise, Father, very much that death is our enemy and it causes great sadness to family and friends. And we know, Father, that Jesus set a beautiful example of how to treat people, and Emilio tried his best to follow that wonderful example. He had a deep love for you and the wonderful hope for the future. He loved us so much that he always talked about it. And we appreciate, Father, the fine example that Emilio left for all of us to follow, whether we're our family or friends. We know that to you, time is very different to us. To you, Father, this is not the end of a book, it's just a chapter in Emilio's life. You have a grand future awaiting for him. So may we grow in our faith so that we too can look forward to much better times ahead. So as the day progresses, may we all comfort each other and share some fond memories of such a loving man. And we ask this, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So the family now would like to invite all of you, if you're able, to go over to the RSL for some refreshments and an opportunity to share some memories with them and to have some nice times on such a sad day.
Think about me whenever you're lonely. Think about me whenever you're blue. Think about me when you have heartaches. Think about me. Thinking about you. In the evening, when the sun sets and blue shadows fall, all through the starry night, till tomorrow they call. I'll be